launching our Dingo Press, a press that's committed to providing a forum for the telling of stories. If you go on the website of this new press, you read that the rationale for establishing it is to enable individuals who might otherwise be ordinary people to tell extraordinary stories. And I think that's a fantastic rationale for a new independent publisher in Melbourne, and what a sensational way to launch the new press with this particular book that we're going to launch tonight.
It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly and who, at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. As Craig Jurisevich's book Blood on My Hands reveals, he has certainly been a man in the arena.
We have to remain focused on treating the victims of the conflict. Sometimes we have to face tough ethical decisions. You can turn back and stick to your moral compass. We can go forward and suffer the consequences. But in the end, I can sleep at night knowing that I did what I did to treat those victims of war.
I found Craig Jurisevich's book, Blood on My Hands, an absolutely compelling read. I read it in a very short period of time, and to say the least, it's a real page-turner. Not only that, it's not only a good read, it really has a number of very, very deep and ethical, moral questions in it. What I found really interesting about Craig's book was the fact that it addressed the issue of commitment, and commitment in the face of true evil. And I think that that's what everyone, if they read his book, can get out of it.
I thought it was really, really heavy-hitting, obviously, because the story's almost unbelievable, but then you see all the background behind it. So I thought, his personal coming to terms with everything that happened, he does talk a little about how it affected him afterwards. I thought it was incredible.
I think one of the most important messages for me is the brutality of war and of the importance of medical treatment provided to victims of war on both sides of the conflict as quickly as possible after their injuries have been sustained. Craig describes in a lot of detail the nature of the injuries that soldiers on the side of the conflict he was providing medical treatment to suffered from shrapnel wounds, from landmine explosions, from their exposure to high-velocity bullets, and it's a terrible story about the nature of the injuries that are caused. And I think it's a really important message about. He had to go several times, move closer and closer and closer to the front line of the conflict to be able to provide medical treatment as soon after the wounds were sustained as possible, in the hope of trying to save lives and be able to patch up bodies. I'm sure that was true on the other side of the conflict as well, and I think it's a fascinating account of his experiences.
All war is bad, and in all wars it's always the innocent civilians who suffer the most, and that's basically. The point of the book wasn't me being the central character, it was me just being a vessel to tell the story of the suffering. And as you saw, if civilians suffered on the Albanian side and the Kosovar side, it's always the innocent, unarmed civilians who suffer, especially the women, old men and children. And that doesn't change with any war, it doesn't matter which side you're on. It happened to the Serb civilians inside Kosovo as well as the Albanian civilians, so it's just terrible. It's an anti-war, the book has an anti-war